Welcome to day 5 of InkWeek. Today's theme is dedicated to sustainability. Ever since COP26 and the EPR policy in 2021, there is renewed focus about sustainability. Today, every business is expected to be sustainable. But what does that mean? So the million-dollar question is, are we really doing enough? Where does sustainability begin and where does it end? What is the magic wand that can solve our problems? These and other pertinent questions will be discussed by the experts today. Before I invite our first speaker for the opening address, let me thank all the A-listers and tech gurus who have presented their thoughts to us over the past 4 days. Here, let me also thank our partners, Zigwork and Uber India, for their unconditional support to InkWeek. With this, let's begin with today's session. I'd like to invite our speaker, Manas Sarkar, General Manager, Human Resources at Flexible Packaging Business of UFlex. Manas Sarkar has over 20 years of experience with esteemed brands in telecom, manufacturing, pharmaceuticals, financial services, and healthcare. He's adept at setting up new projects and plant operations across countries, building teams both cross-functional and cross-cultural. At UFlex, he's a member of the team driving sustainability initiatives and works closely with cross-functional teams, internal as well as external stakeholders, to develop and execute strategies on sustainability to deliver value, and also leads sustainability reporting and auditing for the UFlex Converting division. Welcome, Manas, and over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone. Am I audible? Is it clear?
Yes, sir. You're audible and loud and clear.
Sure. So once again, thanks a lot for giving me the opportunity out here. Thanks a lot for having UFlex here, and and thanks for the wonderful introduction, sir. So as mentioned, I'm representing UFlex. UFlex, as you would all know, is one of the largest multinational packaging materials and solution conglomerate based out of India. We are operating in almost about 150 odd countries. In terms of our product sales, we are in terms of our manufacturing capabilities, we are there in almost about 10 odd countries, and we represent the entire all the verticals of the packaging value chain. I mean, be it any vertical you name it, we are there across all the other all the verticals. And our product portfolios, our customer base, you name it, and we have it. A couple of them being P&G, PepsiCo, Coke, Amcor, name it, and we have the customers. So basically at UFlex, not just now or not just in recent times, but almost about a decade ago, when we kind of framed the organizational values statement, that we have got 6 values of the organization, and almost about a decade ago, sustainability was one of our values that we kind of agreed on at that particular point in time. So what I'm trying to say is, for UFlex, sustainability is a way of life, is a culture around here, and it is not just something which is being done right now because of regulatory frameworks, so on and so forth. So having said that, I'll just go ahead and take you through the basic approach that we are having with respect to this particular aspect of sustainability. So our sustainability solution, or our approach towards sustainability, is based on 3 key pillars. source reduction, source substitution, and biodegradability. So each of the three pillars are important, and a sustainable future or a sustainable solution would only come because of the cumulative impact of the approach, successful approach in all of these three pillars. I mean, one of the pillars doing damn well, the others not doing so well, may not result in the desired output. So each of the three pillars have to fire all cylinders for us to kind of move into a much more sustainable future. So we'll start with the first one, which is source reduction. Very important, and we've been doing this for quite some time now, is how do we kind of look at the waste which is being generated in our packaging plant. So the entire waste which is being generated in our plant, in our packaging plants across all locations, is through the process that I've depicted out here. Is through shredding, compacting, compatibilizers, and through various extrusion processes, we are able to convert 100% of the MLP. 100% of the MLP we're able to convert into granulates, and these granulates are then repurposed into various applications like road building, horticulture, like plastic furnitures, like furnitures, benches, so on and so forth. So 100% of the MLP that we kind of the waste that we kind of generate in our plant is through this particular process repurposed and converted into granulates. If we go a little beyond, if the entire country gets into this kind of a mode, then we have the potential as a kind of a country to kind of prevent carbon emission to the tune of almost about 1.5 million tons of carbon dioxide. So one of the first steps that we are doing is we are practicing what we are preaching. So this waste collection, whatever we generate, gets into this particular mode. So this is one way of source reduction that we are kind of looking at. The source of waste being reduced. Second is, again, a similar pillar. I mean, we are still talking about this first pillar itself. So how we are kind of, this waste collection goes through the process of, shredding and incineration, and whatever heat we kind of generate, is being used for our plant operations. So this is again another important way of reducing dependency on fossil fuels for running plant operations. So this again, as mentioned, this has a huge potential with respect to reduction in the carbon footprint. And this is a work in progress, fairly at an advanced stage. Very soon, some of our plant will get into this mode where the heat being generated after incinerating the waste is being reused and repurposed for running plant operations. Product down gauging. So what we just mentioned in the earlier couple of slides was how we are looking at the sustainability from a process perspective. So what are the changes in the processes that we are looking at, that we have kind of brought around, which leads us to a much more sustainable outcome. Now we are looking at what are the changes. We are looking at the product from the product side, which is helping us further our goals towards sustainability. So wherever possible, down gauging of new generation polymers without compromising on barrier and mechanical properties is what we have very, very successfully done, and is being used in various packaging material. I will just take you through some of the areas where this is going to happen. So again, product down gauging, one of the important parts is we are also looking at a better decal utilization, which results in less energy usage and better quality product. This again has the potential of reducing carbon dioxide, as I've mentioned in the figures. Product re-engineering, this is what I was talking about, and you have an example on the extreme right-hand side where the existing, we have reduced the micronage from 30 to 25 without compromising on barrier properties. And this has resulted in a lesser usage of plastics in the product. This has resulted in the product being much more amenable towards recycling and towards other things. So this is a live example, as I was mentioning, how we have now looked at the product size with respect to re-engineering and evolving towards a product which is much more better from a sustainable perspective. Yet another example where we have reduced the micronage of the product from 18 to 12. This has resulted in a better usage, lesser usage of fossil material, and of course, much more amenable, much more progressive towards recycling and chemical decomposition. So what I mentioned right now was about source reduction. Now we will look at source substitution. So as I mentioned, all the pillars are important. So this is yet another important pillar which will take us towards a sustainable kind of solution. So when we are looking at source reduction, these are the three areas where we are looking at. These are the three sources that are there, and in each of these source areas, how we are looking at source reduction. So one is substituting the non-sustainable structures, substituting virgin with recycled content, and of course, looking at the other, the last circle, that I kind of just mentioned. So one of the pioneering products, which is made by our flex plants in Kentucky, Poland, and Mexico, is this particular product, which is 100% PCR polymer content, which has got 100% PCR polymer content. A classic example where an entire product is kind of developed and built basis 100% PCR polymer content. This particular film, Apocalypse film, represents a near 75% reduction in carbon footprint versus virgin bopettes. So this is a tried, tested, internationally accepted, and a successful product with respect to sustainability, and of course lowering carbon footprint. Yet another example within our country where almost up to 40% PCR laminate, post-consumer recycled laminate, in used in these PET oblique PE products. So 40% PCR laminate is already being used in the products which are being sold, which are being used by our customers, and this product is finally getting into the marketplace. So up to 40% PCR laminate is used in this kind of product. Yet another application where up to 40% PCRP is used in shrink applications. Now these are definitely, these are the quick wins, but definitely an important area. So these were quick wins, and we have been able to address them also very quickly. And this is a very simple example where we are looking at a 40% PCRP for shrink application, and this is already in use in all of our plants. Foil substitution, a very important element of foil substitution is, now we are looking at in foil substitution, we are first addressing aluminum foil area, because aluminum is one thing which is very difficult from a sustainability perspective, from a recycling perspective. So you would have seen that aluminum foil has been replaced by ultra high barrier met films with respect to this particular thing, without, again, as I'm mentioning, compromising on any of the barrier properties or any of the mechanical properties of the end product. So this is again absolutely in use and well institutionalized with respect to our product portfolio. Monopolymer based substitute. So this is again an area where we are looking at source substitution, and monopolymer substitution of multipolymer structures with monopolymer structures has huge advantages with respect to sustainability. So here the example in the earlier slide, the example in this particular slide, where by resorting to mono PE based structure without compromising on any of the properties, in fact coming up with better properties, has resulted in a much sensible output with respect to the end product and its reusage and recycling. Again, examples of two products where the monopolymer and laminate usage has resulted in advantages to us. More of them coming up here. More of them coming out here. These are big bags, 20 kg rice bags, where the substitution has happened with a mono PE in the mono PE kind of format. So and these are available in the market. Some of us would have also used these kind of products. Most importantly, I mean, we all have pets at our home, and again, the entire range of pet product packaging has been substituted with monopolymer PP based packaging material, and these products would be there in almost every second, third, fourth, fifth household. And a classic example where substitution with a monopolymer PP based product has resulted in a much better environment, not only for us but for these dear pets as well. Again, substitution of less sustainable input. This is again a part of that pillar of source reduction. So usage of inks. Now inks, a lot of inks have a huge potential either ways, both ways. How we are kind of replacing less sustainable inputs with more sustainable inputs is use of non-toluene, non-ketone inks. So increasingly in our product portfolio, we have increasing the usage of non-toluene, non-ketone inks. We are moving quite swiftly and surely towards usage of water-based inks, energy curing, and of course flexo printing, which uses much less heat and results towards less consumption of fossil fuels. Use of CNG and PNG for heating. And this has a potential at a national level by to reduce carbon emission by almost about 0.0325 per ton per year. And I'm proud to say that, in our organization, we have almost in our particularly plant in Noida, packaging plant in Noida, we are almost using about 30 to 40% PNG. For our plant operations, and then gradually, once the supply improves, once our processes get adapted to this particular change, we will kind of move on to this particular mode. So you would see in all the things that we have spoken about, in all our approaches that we have spoken about, be it product, be it processes, we have to a large extent adopted them, a large extent modified our internal working apparatus to kind of ensure that we as an organization, not only in India and across the globe, move towards a sustainable kind of future. Just a statistic, but a very, very important statistics. So at UFlex, you would see that, all our efforts, and I kind of mentioned that we have been into it for the last almost about a decade. So all our efforts have now begun to see some impact, some outcome, with respect to the carbon footprint. So this you would see had been stagnant till about 2019, and then gradually it's dipping. So as I mentioned, this is a process of evolution. Will take some time before we kind of institutionalize this thing, and then we would see the benefits coming on a much regular and a much positive way. And last but not the least important is biodegradability. I think this is one particular approach which can be a game changer, which should be a game changer. So we are looking at uncollected waste and of course aerobic biodegradable enzymatic waste solution under ambient conditions is what we are working on. We have already developed a solution. We have already developed a solution which is biodegradable in soil environment and under ambient conditions. So we are already quite ahead in terms of developing this particular thing. I'll show you one example as well. And more importantly, this is also in conformance with ISO 17556 of PWM and to be read along with the EPR guidelines. So this is also one of the approaches that ISO 17556 talks about. So we are very much ahead with respect to this particular product. And then once we have the SOPs which kind of certify that this particular product of ours satisfies all the condition of ISO 17556, this could be a game changer for the entire industry. And as you would see here, as I mentioned, we'll be talking about one product where we're looking at enzyme embedded during the process of manufacturing and how this kind of the end of life happens, under inside the soil under ambient conditions. So as far as this particular 17556 is concerned, it talks about 10% biodegradation within the first 90 days. And if that result can be extrapolated and it results in 90% biodegradation at the end of 2 years, then this product gets certified as biodegradable under ambient conditions under the soil. And if this happens, this certainly is going to be the plastics industry probably kind of gets into a new genre. So we could call it the plastic 2.0 or plastic 3.0. If these kind of if this particular sees the light of the day. So that's a small capsule on small but definitely very relevant and impactful capsule on what approaches we are kind of following at UFlex, how it has helped us in terms of furthering the national goal towards creating a sustainable product portfolio, how it's helping us to kind of reduce the carbon emissions. And I'm very proud to say that, as I mentioned, that our approach started almost about a few decades ago. And very proud to mention that in the year 1995, Uflex became the first company in the world to recycle mixed plastic waste, earning us a reputation and recognition at the Davos Recycle Forum. So as early as 1995, we became the first company in the world to recycle mixed plastic waste, and it got us an international recognition at the Davos Forum. We've also got quite a few national recognitions as well with respect to these efforts of ours, in the area of sustainability. I would sincerely urge and request members who are keen on this particular concept, on this particular process, to look up our website, www.uflexltd.com for more details. And I would personally be happy to respond to any questions that anybody would have. You could send us those questions over email, and I would be really happy and delighted to kind of respond to all that. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for the time, and I hope this is of interest to all of us. Thank you, everyone.
Yes, definitely, Manas. We are here to discuss sustainability, and thank you for all the sharing. A lot of takeaways for us, and I'd hope in a forthcoming panel discussion, we will break them down further. Thank you once again.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.
I now welcome Dr. K. Arul Anand, Joint Director, Technical, FSSAI. Associated with FSSAI for the past 1.5 years, Dr. Arul Anand is currently the Designated Officer, Central Licensing for the states of Andhra Pradesh and Telangana, and is stationed in the regional office at Chennai. Please welcome, sir, and we're glad to have you. So you're on mute.
Am I audible now?
Yes, sir, you are.
Yeah, thank you.
You can also adjust your camera a bit because we can't. Is
it okay?
Yes, much better, sir. Much better.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for inviting me, and a special thanks to one Mr. Dibya Jyoti. He has been in touch with me for quite some time with respect to this program. My appreciations to InkWeek. This program, InkWeek, organized by PrintWeek and What Packaging magazine. I precisely to understand, I'm from the regulatory space for standards of food, and I'm the central licensing authority for the states of Andhra Pradesh and Telangana. We basically look at the safety aspects of food, but we were also invited to participate in this program and share what is being happening from the regulatory landscape of food being operationalized through the Food Safety and Standards Authority of India, FSSAI. Before we go into the topic which is relevant to what is being discussed in this forum, just a brief of what FSSAI is doing. FSSAI, as you know, is the regulatory agency in the country, basically implementing standards for food, science-based standards for food, whatever be the activity, be it manufacturing, be it distribution, storage. So all the activities governing food is being regulated by the Food Safety Standards Authority of India. And in terms of the operations, what FSSAI is doing, it's basically it's a two-pronged operations, which is mainly the two-pronged operations. One is the licensing perspective. The other one is food imports, the food that enters into the country. It's being tested, and then only it is being released into the into the country. Now, with respect to the licensing, where I am engaged with, we have a platform called as FOSCOS, which is a food safety compliance system. It is completely an online platform wherein the food business operators, we call them as FBOs, they make their applications to the authority through this FOSCOS, they online. And then on scrutiny of the application with respect to the relevant documents that is required as per the kind of business, we have different kinds of businesses. We have manufacturers, we have non-manufacturers, and among manufacturers, we have dairy, vegetable units, slaughterhouses, export-oriented units, exporter manufacturers. So we have different categories of manufacturers. And then on the non-manufacturer side, we have all the distribution, storage, transporters, So those FPOs come under the non-manufacturing side. So the licensing is being done for both the manufacturers and the non-manufacturers. And considering the scope of or the spectrum of the food industry, in terms of starting from a small petty food shop or a tea shop to big players like Nestle or other big business enterprises. So all these units come under the scope of FSSAI. So how the licensing happens is we have two scopes of licenses. One is a state license, the other one is a central license. The state license acts on two wings again. There is a registration followed by a license. Any business which is less than 12 lakhs comes under registration. Businesses which is in the range of 12 lakhs to 20 crore, they come under the purview of license under the state. And any business which is having a value of more than 20 crores, they come under the ambit of the central licenses. And certain businesses exclusively like nutraceutical products, exporters, importers, proprietary food, they come under the direct purview of the central licensing. So this entire aspect of licensing is being done through the Fosco's online application. And with respect to the food imports, we have another application called as FICS. It's the Food Import Clearance System. Again, that is an integrated clearance system which works in sync with the customs through an iSkate platform. So any commodity of food entering the country through any port of India, it is being tested for its quality, suitability, and safety, and then only food item is allowed inside the country, and that is also done through an online platform called as FICS, that is Food Import Clearance System. In addition, the authority, the FSSAI, has a lot of initiatives. We call them as the Eat Right initiative, wherein aspects like food fortification, wherein essential nutrients are added to food. We have, in terms of sustainability, we have an aspect called as RUCO, which is the repurpose used cooking oil, wherein oil after frying is being sent for biodiesel or soap manufacturing. There are other initiatives like certifying hotels as the hotels are hygiene rated, whether they are following the standards of sanitation and hygiene. We have Eat Right schools, we have Eat Right campuses, we have Bhog. Bhog is the blissful hygienic offering to God, wherein even the religious food or prasad that is being offered in the temples are being certified by FSSAI. So these are all the other initiatives of FSSAI apart from the licensing and the food imports clearance. And the main aspect of with respect to the authorities in terms of the standards being established and the regulations being framed. So here I have three things to say here. We have an act, we have a rule, we have a regulation. So the act is the primary one, which was made in the year 2006. And then it was made effective in the year 2011. We had earlier 6 principal regulations. Now we have around 26 regulations, out of which near about 21 regulations are technical regulations, the other 5 are administrative regulations. The Act empowers the authority to prepare regulations, and in line with that, the authority has been preparing regulations on various aspects, be it licensing or on standards of food or any other aspects, be it packaging or labeling, be it fortification. For every aspect, we have a regulation governing the particular activity. So this is about the FSSAI in nutshell, because I didn't want to run through a presentation detailing everything. So what is being done in FSSAI has been detailed out. With respect to the topic which is being discussed as part of the InkWeek program, what regulations we have in FSSAI which will be applicable, which I can correlate with the topic that is being discussed here is, we have a packaging and labeling regulation. That was an initial principle regulation which was made in the year 2011, followed by now we have an exclusive packaging regulation which was made at the year 2018. And this packaging regulation speaks about ink, the quality of ink that should be used for a food packaging material. And as per that regulation, it states that the ink should meet the IS specification 15495. And the other thing that it states, the packaging regulation states, is the printed part of the package should never be in contact with the food. So this is what, with respect to ink, the packaging regulation speaks about. But the packaging regulation clearly speaks about the type of packaging material that can come in contact with food, be the primary packaging material or the secondary packaging material, effectively, essentially, governing the technical aspects with related to the packaging material. Whatever be the packaging material, be it paper, be it tin, be it bottle, whatever be it, the packaging regulation clearly defines the standards for the packaging material. Essentially meaning that the ink that goes over the packaging material will not be permeated to the food inside. So the packaging material governs acts as a barrier, preventing the ink from getting in contact with the food material. The other regulation that we have is the, as people who are associated with inks and packaging, we have is the labeling and the display regulation, which speaks about what should go on the label of a food commodity, be it the naming of the product, be it the ingredients, how the ingredients have to be listed out, be it about the veg logo or the non-veg logo, be it about the claims, what claims can be made and what claims cannot be made, be it about the license number being put on the label. So all those aspects as how the label should be is being discussed in the labeling and display regulation. In case the participants of this program, you'd like to look at what these regulations are, this is very much available in the FSSAI website under the section regulations of FSSAI, the packaging and labeling regulations 2011, followed by packaging regulation 2018, and followed by labeling and display regulations 2020. So the packaging regulation 2011 will be kind of taken off after some time, in effective to the packaging regulation, the labeling and display regulation 2020 coming into place. So this is what I had to share with all of you from the perspective of food safety regulatory system, and with relevance to whatever we could discuss on ink. If there are any queries on any topic of FSSAI, I would like to take. Yeah.
Thank you so much. A lot of important updates that you shared with us. And I'm sure our delegates would have been keenly noting them. And there are a few questions that we have. So, sir, before you take your leave, can we go ahead with those questions?
Yeah, please.
Yeah. So can you tell us what is the latest on the ban on newspaper and plastic sheets for restaurant takeaways?
Yeah. See, again, I was talking about the packaging regulation 2018. If you look at the regulation itself clearly states that newspaper cannot be used for packing food, and cannot be used for pressing and then taking the in case of fried items for the oil. With respect to the plastics, the regulation clearly states the quality of plastic, whatever be the type of plastic. The regulation clearly defines what type of plastic materials can be used with respect to food.
Okay. We've been hearing that FSSAI was in a discussion of developing a labeling standard that involves color coding based on critical criteria such as high fat, high sugar, and others.
See, in the labeling and display regulation, which I was discussing to you, which was made effective in 2020, when the original draft was made in 2019, this particular aspect was incorporated, the color coding for high fat, high sugar content.
Correct.
But there were some concerns from the industry, basically concerns that could be understood in terms of from an industry standpoint, declaring that as a color coded thing on the label may have a customer preference in terms of there may be a market impact as how the customers choose the product. So based on those concerns, that particular aspect was not carried forward in the regulation. So the regulation in 2020 doesn't have that color coded thing. But going forward, the authority is in continuous consultation with the industry stakeholders as how best the color-coded labels can be, brought into operation.
Thank you, sir. So we don't have a clear roadmap per se on bringing that back.
Now, this is an ongoing process. The industry consultations are happening. And
Okay.
in fact, there are some updates in the website wherein in the advisories, you can also look at the discussions happening between the authority and the stakeholders. So there are some takeaways from that meetings also. But then, I think there's still some way forward, that it may take some more time. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Sorry. Can you also give us an update on the strengthening sustainability goals for packaging firms that provide service to the food firms?
No, from a sustainability standpoint, with respect to packaging materials, we have a recent that's there as part of the packaging regulation also. There is an order of FSSAI wherein plastic materials can be recycled and then again used for packaging.
Okay.
But then that particular entity who do that recycling has to take an approval from the authority before entering into that particular process. There are certain criteria for it, which is which determine the technical aspects. And so essentially, the entity who is doing the recycling process has to get the approval from the authority. There may be some verification done based on the approval will be given, and then the recycled products can be used. This is with respect to plastics alone. What we see in the present scope of permissible options with the authority in terms of recycling, in terms of sustainability. Right. This is with respect to the packaging material. Of course, FSSAI does lost on other sustainability options. Like I was talking about RUCO, the repurpose used cooking oil, which is of course not related to the packing material, but it's to the food product to be recycled for.
Yeah, got it. Thank you. There is also this question about when will GM food regulation come into existence, sir?
No, with respect to genetically modified foods, as of now, we have a draft regulation which is on the enzymes derived from genetically modified sources, which can be used as processing aids in food. Not essentially as food, but as processing aids in food. So as of now, we have only this regulation, which has been uploaded, and then we are waiting for comments from the stakeholders. Based on the comments, it will be finally notified. So this is again only for the enzymes which are derived from genetically modified sources. It is not related to genetically modified food. So I think with respect to genetically modified foods, I think it might take some more time.
Okay, thank you, sir. One last question. Will there be a new system for all importers of select crops like rice, wheat, sugarcane, apple, eggplant, maize, and potato?
From the range of commodities that you have cited, it appears that as of now also FSSAI is importing all the commodities that you have told.
Okay.
So, but then with the special emphasis to the question that you have asked, it is understood that it is are they genetically modified and they are permitted to be imported into the country. Correct. So essentially, we have to wait for this GM regulations to fall in place, a countrywide acceptance on GM food, and then it has to be technically deliberated, and then only it will be permitted. So that's the status.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your time and patiently answering all our questions today, sir.
Yeah.
We compliment the FSSAI team for the standards. These have been established by evaluating the data from the industry and international scientific references, which are best suited to the Indian context. 3 inputs which we have from the industry, Dr. Arul, if you may.
Yeah.
One, in case of the pesticides, minimum residue limits, one feedback is about the guidelines for monitoring at farm level. For example, some food producers say fixing the default MRL of 0.1 ppm is not advisable. One for the experts to look at. Number 2, likewise, my colleagues in What Packaging magazine have been talking to some of the food business operators at a food park in Gujarat. As you're aware, the FSSAI annual return had proposed a clause about an amendment in Form D. The FBO say this is a bit cumbersome to be filed by them, and this includes a number of FOSTAC training plus the inputs about the customer complaints and their resolutions, also product test reports and product category details. Last, there is a proposed clause of an additional step of product verification before applying for license. The industry feedback is that such a restriction should not be introduced as it further delays or extends timelines for grant of licenses. A few humble inputs on behalf of the industry.
No. I need to answer them.
Sure. Please go ahead.
With respect to the annual return filing, see, this is which is again online. Earlier, it was submitted as hard copies, but currently, I was telling about the online platform that we have, which is Foscos, which is the platform which I am using for issuance of license. See, the Foscos is so designed that it will do a 360-degree profiling of the FBOs. Primarily, and as I told you, ours is not a very small number of entities that we are covering under the licensing scope. Starting from a tea shop to a high business entity, everybody falls under the scope of FSSI. And then the only mechanism that we have to profile the FPOs is only when they submit annual returns, and whatever details that are asked in the annual. See, we are not making it very stringent as of now in terms of number of FOSTAC trainers or trained employees, or so it is not being very stringently looked at as of now. But then that is something which has to be mandatorily complied by the FPO, something which cannot be leveraged upon by the authority, because the authority has to have an overall understanding. Not only of the technical aspects, but there are certain other inputs derived from that in terms of what is the product output made at a national level, and what is the revenue generated at a national level. So this annual return information is something which will really help. With respect to the second question, the first question of yours in terms of the pesticide residues and the minimal level, well, see, we have a standards division. We have two big committees. We have a scientific panel and a scientific committee which work out on the standards. And with respect to pesticides, contaminants, and all, or aspects which are directly related to the safety aspect of the food, wherein we cannot have even a slight amount of complacency, or we can't even do away with values here and there. So it has to be stringently complied with. And the third point, again, I don't know, the foods have to be verified as part of the licensing mechanism. It is not something which we cannot verify the food and then give away the license, which is a mandatory part of the licensing process. Each and every line item in the license is being evaluated as what food it is, under which category it fits in, what are the additives permitted for it. So everything is being looked into, and then only the license can be issued. So yeah, I mean, if there are concerns from a specific area, I suppose you told Gujarat, I think they can meet our central licensing authority at Ahmedabad. So for any clarifications, so they will be in a position to guide.
Thank you once again. So one more question for you from our audience. This is from Amit Sharma. He wants to know any updates or thoughts on standardization of flexible packaging material for foods. FSSAI had conducted a study on flexible packaging materials before COVID. Any update on that?
So frank admission, I'm not having any information on that as of now. Probably I'll discuss, and then I'll get back to you on that. Yeah.
Sure, sir. So we will, Dibya Jyoti, who's been interacting with you, can maybe share a few more questions that we have with you, and we can maybe, share with our delegates at a later point, if that is okay with you.
Right.
Okay, sir. Thank you once again for your time and patience. We hope to continue this dialogue between our industry and FSSAI in the future as well.
Thank you, Sriram. Thank you very much for your patience. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. We now have an eminent panel to discuss about all things sustainability. Let me quickly introduce the discussants for the day. Ganeshkumar V, Associate Vice President, Sustainability, DQS India. Dr. Medha, Co-founder and Director, Rudra Blue Planet. Ramakrishna Karanth, CEO, Seagwork India. Shailesh Verma, Vice President, Global Sales Head, Packaging and Lamination Films, Cosmo Films. And the session will be moderated by Ramu Ramanathan. Over to you, Ramu.
All right. Thank you. Interesting past 45 minutes. Thank you for that. We discussed a lot about flexible packaging. I suspect we'll continue to do that because flexible packaging is predominant in India. And it also uses less material per kg for product. And, India is a value conscious society. It's one of the things overhearing, both Manas and Dr. Arul is that a simple example is PET bottles, milk pouches. And the problem is that the PET in bottle and LDP in milk pouches will be used because they happen to be the most optimum material and not because of ease of recycling and so on, which in a way nicely sort of dovetails into our discussion. One of the words that I heard repeated twice or thrice as far as biodegradability. And again, that's interesting because we've been having these conversations with some of the FBOs in Gujarat, in Maharashtra. And one of the feedbacks that we've collected over the last 2 to 3 years is that biodegradability should not be the only factor which is considered and that the others are ignored. And we need to look at things from a total environmental cost. That's crucial. That's one of the themes that we'll be sort of dwelling upon during our panel discussion. The second suggestion, which also in a way echoes somewhere the coding system is, but here we are talking of a coding system that could cover the entire life cycle. Again, we've been talking to some of the design labs, we've been talking to some of the tech companies, that if we can invent or create a coding system that covers the entire life cycle of packaging, again, looking at it as biodegradability not being the only factor. So how do you look at the entire life cycle of packaging and from its constituents to its functions to its ability to recycle? So there's something known as a life cycle assessment. This is what the tech experts and the environmental experts, and that's probably the way to go. So you have color codes, you have numeric codes, and this is something that the end consumer, so a typical millennial, someone even in the teens, someone, even a senior citizen is aware of and gets familiar with over a period of time. So in a sense, a kind of mass consciousness as opposed to, these themes being discussed only in small groups and echo chambers. But the most important thing of the standardized process for this life cycle assessment is to make it auditable so that there are no gaps in the process. And we are not depending on individuals and organizations to, push the bar, as it were, in, for the sustainability thing and also to avoid misuse. Again, one of the interesting conversations we've been having with the food providers and the packaging companies is again something called value curve analysis. Maybe for a lot of the management guys and the production people, this is something that is often used. Again, one of the things which we'll be discussing in the panel is mapping the value of each attribute. So this seems to be a very simple thing that you map each value of your product and then superimpose that with the customer's perception of the value of it. And then the areas where the customer does not perceive value are the areas in which you optimize it. And wherever the consumer has understood the value, you do some kind of value enhancement. Now, this is the standard sort of definition of value curve analysis. But what if you are able to do this with the FMCGs, with the cosmetics, with the packaging manufacturers, but they look at the product not just from a productivity and EBITDA point of view, but also from a sustainability. How can the cost be optimized as well as the sustainability quotient? So quality and the standards for sustainability. So these are the three sort of themes of what we're going to discuss, hopefully over the next 1 hour. So welcome again. Sorry for that long ramble at the beginning. So welcome again, Dr. Medha, Ganeshkumar, Shailesh Verma, and Ramakrishna Karanth. The theme is sustainability and what is the magic wand that can solve our problems. Again, some very interesting thoughts that Manas had shared with us earlier, and of course, Dr. Arul. I'm going to ask you a slightly naive and probably a very silly question, and because I've been hearing this word sustainability over the last 5 days, and there have been different experts and different specialists who've been looking at it from the point of view of their industry, their perspective. So I've put you all on the spot right at the outset and request you to define sustainability from your point. What does sustainability mean for you, and if you can define it? So we'll start off with Ramakrishna. Ram? Yeah.
Yeah. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Ramu, for that question. You mentioned it's a naive and basic question. I think it's quite a loaded question, according to me. you are very right in saying that this has been, we have been talking about it, discussing about it in the last 5 days, or maybe in the recent few years, it has actually become a buzzword. But if I take a step back and sort of ask myself whether the sustainability has not been there earlier, I personally think that it's not so. It had always been there. I will take a step back and talk about ZigWork itself. I am from ZigWork, and ZigWork has been existent for close to 2 centuries now. We have got a history of 192 years. If an organization needs to stand up, sustain, and deliver results year after year for long 2 centuries, unless we are having sustainability ingrained in our DNA, it will be impossible to do it. I would say like that.
Sure.
This is then, okay, whether organizations, how do they define, or how do I define? I define the way actually ZigWork defines it. We have got actually a sort of a defined sustainability agenda, which says sustainability as achieving a sensible balance between ecological, social, and economic needs. I think, we all need to really think about it, that in our day-to-day life, we are all sort of driven by P&L, EBITDA, top line, growth, all these aspects. But I think all these aspects take a backseat if you are not being sustainable. We will fall by the wayside if you are not really sustainable in our approach in ensuring that all these growth, top line, profitability, market leadership, they actually get ingrained with a social good and ecological good. On a philosophical and poetic note, I will quote Emerson, the 19th century American essayist and poet, who stated that we do not inherit the earth from our ancestors. We borrow it from our children. I think this is what sustainability is all about. We need to leave this world a better place when we hang up our shoes. That's what I would say.
Sure. Shailesh?
Yeah, hi. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Ramakrishna, for describing sustainability in such a nice manner in overall aspects. To me, sustainability is like in simple words, I would say, because we are in business. We all are in business, and we are taking a lot from society. So it's our responsibility to take care of the society. So sustainability is like whatever we do in our business, whatever resources we are using, whatever in our manufacturing operations, or whatever product that we are making using various inputs have to be recyclable. The output has to be recyclable, and the operations that we have to be sustainable. Whatever natural resources we have been using, we have to make sure that we are conserving it for the future use, and that intelligent use to preserve all those natural resources is what I call as sustainability in a broader term.
Sure. Got that. Yeah. Ganesh?
Ramu sir, thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, I know you've been rolling up your sleeves on this department for quite a few years.
Yeah.
If you can share, yeah.
Thank you, Ramu sir. Ramakrishna has stole my line of the philosophical saying, so I will start with the definition. That's my first line. So he ended it. So I will start with the definition actually. What is sustainability? Because there are so many definitions, so many interpretations and perceptions. So I take up the first UN definition of sustainability. I'll read it actually.
Sure.
It is saying that managing resources without depleting them for future generations. The basic definition. Yeah. So it puts two questions now. When I read this definition, is it, when I say resources, so it's only about resources? Is it about environmental side? Because that's the first aspect comes to it. Number two, the second question, more paradox question. So do I need to stay poor so that my future generation has to be rich? Right? How much should I save now so that my next kid can be richer? Okay, so it's a very paradox question. So I want to slightly add a point to it. It's again a discussion happening in the lot of UNFCCC COPs also. It's called sustainable development.
Yep.
Right. So which is more relevant definition than speaking about sustainability. So when we speak about this sustainability, I always mean sustainable development. because that's more relevant to what we are discussing in the last 5 days. So if you see sustainable development, the definition is very clear. It says it's a set of activities, processes for improving the long-term economic well-being. So we speak about growth because even India, we want to become 5 trillion economy, right? So we want to grow. That's our set of things. And the quality of life, because we want to improve GDP, we want to improve everything. So economic well-being, quality of life has to be improved. But there come things without compromising future generations' growth, right? So now we see a set of 3 parameters. We see economic growth is important because I don't want to become poor so that my kids can be rich, okay? So that's the economic growth. And there has to be a quality of life, which speaks about social improvements, right? And meeting these 2 ends, and then I need to manage my resources. So it's a pretty game of strings where you have to manage all the 3 strings. As I think the John Atkinson, who came with a three pillar or triple bottom line, he said people, planet, profit. Even he took over the I think first product recall. He recalled the particular triple bottom line because he said people said out of 3 I can take 2, so 1 can be left out. So it's a fine string of balancing where we have to grow with society has to grow with concerning environmental resources for the future. So that will be my way of doing it. Thank you.
Ganesh. Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Medha, over to you. I mean, all 3 have sort of in a way outlined their vision, so to speak. It sounds as ambitious as the Constitution of India in 1950, you know. So the aim and the aspirations are high. If you can share with us the sustainability, your notion of what sustainability is, and how far away have we moved away from this Constitution? The sustainability concept.
Yeah, because I think, like you said, it has become a buzzword.
Yeah.
And like Ram was saying, sustainability has been there, for the generations. It's just that we have just started using this buzzwords. I always like to think, because somewhere sustainability is also connected with, refusing, reusing, and recycling. And I think we Indians have always been a brilliant recyclers. All of you have spoken about a lot of, other things. I would like to speak about the ground realities because I worked as a, creating awareness, collection of waste, as well as a recycler. Sure. And when I talk about that, I always, feel that, somewhere I think as Indians, we have lost the way. Because, take an example of, a simple example of a t-shirt or a shirt. At one time, you had, you don't want it, you used to give it to somebody. And that person used to use it. If it, if it used to get some strand, you will use it as pocha and everything. So, in a way, our forefathers, and they were sustainable in a different kind of way. And now the way our generation or future generations are looking at it is simply because, we have lot of kind of a waste, lot of kind of, recycling. I think the amount of waste that is generating, we just don't know what to do with it.
Sure.
And that is where I think, we are all started thinking about how can we be sustainable.
Yeah.
So for me, because I work with the plastic waste, for me, if you look at now single use plastic, is first thing is, refusing it or reducing it, and also making it sure that it gets recycled. As simple as that, and also, like Shailesh ji was saying that all of us also have to think from a company point of view. Then we all have to think that, whatever we do as a company, as an individual, whether we are socially sustainable, Ganesh was saying about that we need to sustain, as a company. So whatever we do, we have to make money. So as a company, we have to be financially viable, financially sustainable. But at the same time, now we have to think about the environment about, which is nearby environment of our employees. How can we make their lives better? How can we make the lives of the society where our company operates better, or where we are in that, synergy? I think, for me, I think that is sustainability, about having that impact as an individual, as a company, as a nation, to not only on the human beings, on the nature, as well as whatever the natural resources there are. I think that's a simply put it, the sustainability is for me.
Yes, got that. Thank you, Dr. Medha. I think broadly we seem to be in agreement. Again, Shailesh, I'm coming to you. One of the buzzwords we picked up is SDG. I think Ganesh also mentioned it, Sustainable Development Goals. And there is a lot of conversation, especially in the context of what happened in the United Kingdom during COP, that the industry needs to pay that much extra attention to SDG. So the question to you, and Cosmo, is what's the company update? Because we also are hoping that we send out a kind of a positive message and inject some level of sustainable optimism in the larger sphere. So what's the Cosmo update on strengthening sustainability goals? If you can share something from any of the plant projects at Aurangabad, Baroda, anything that you have for us. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Sure. Thanks. I'll take a little time because I have many things to tell you about that. Maybe
Sure.
It helps others also. Cosmo has been working on different filmic solutions to come out with fully recyclable structures in case of MLP. So like mono material structures. So we have been working extensively with the brands, with the converters to come out with the films that are, in the outer layer replacing polyester, to have a monomeric structure, So we have come out with a film that replaces polyester. We have some barrier films, those replace aluminum foil, so that you have poly, all the 3 layers or multiple layers of the same monomer, of the same polymer. So it becomes fully recyclable. So we have been working on that, and then we have a good portfolio for such films. And besides this, at the same time, for there are other initiatives that we have taken, like all our films are printable with water-based inks. So,
okay.
Yeah. So any film you pick up, it's printable with water-based inks. The coated films that we use only water-based coatings, no solvent. And then we have high-performance films, thin gauged. Where there are films where you use a lot of aluminum and metallized films, higher OD and all thicker films, and you get certain barriers. You have to do coating, high GSM coating and all. But we have through recipes in this thin gauges only, say 15 micron only, we have achieved all those barrier values. So there are high performance films which reduce plastic content. Capable of reducing plastic content in the laminate. We have extra high clarity films, so you have to, the ink GSM has to be, it can be optimized. It can be less to have that same kind of bright impact of the printing. Then we have introduced synthetic paper way back in early 90s, and it replaces paper. It's a plastic basically with paper look, and it goes into calendars, posters, diaries, and religious books, and all the tags, baggage tags, and multiple kind of usages are there. And even in this is UV protected, and it goes into, it replaces PVC also in outdoor promotional activities,
Yep.
So that way, this is again an initiative that we have taken towards sustainability. And this is something on product front, and the manufacturing front. We have been using 30% of our water consumption as through rain harvesting only.
Okay.
And the water that goes for effluent treatment, 50% of that we are after treatment we are doing secondary RO, passing it through secondary RO and reusing it in our process. And whatever little waste that we have, that we are using in our horticulture activity within the plant. We are not water zero, I mean positive or water zero, but I know there is a lot of water consumption, but these are all initiatives that we have taken to reduce water consumption. And the initiative on which I would like to really stress upon is about the energy conservation. We have really done something good there. You know, we are using almost 25% of our consumption through renewable energy.
Got that.
So we have solar power panels installed on all our plant roofs and open areas, and we have adjoining land. If it is unoccupied, then we have taken it on rent and we have put solar panels there. So we are using. We have 3 plants in India, manufacturing plants, and in all the plants we are using solar power. And we are going for wind power also. In one of the plants we have put up windmills, and we are using wind power there. And in other 2 plants in Maharashtra, we are soon going to put up windmill there also.
Okay.
So
that's quite a lot. Yeah.
So at the moment we are generating about as 8% of our consumption in renewable energy, and the rest we are purchasing. You know, so like just to give you an idea, we saved something like 1 crore kilowatt hour units in 2021. Just with these efforts, like mainly it was about 75 lakhs units from renewable energy, and then we have taken other measures to improve our processes. We have redesigned the processes, and we have done the retrofitting of our equipments for power saving. And then there are other small initiatives like all the lightings are LEDs, and we have gone for sky roofs. We have the factory shed has got large glass panels on the side walls for natural light and all. All the we have centralized chilling unit for coating lines, and we are not using chilled water now, which we used to use earlier. We are using just water from cooling towers for chilling purpose. So those are certain initiatives, but we are doing the maximum stress is on energy conservation. Besides what we are doing with our product portfolio.
Got that, Shailesh.
Thank you.
And energy is a national resource. So yes, very much. Ram, would you want to add to that? I know that ZigWorks been
shall be happy to cover a few points what we are doing. We have, as I mentioned, we have got a sustainability agenda very clearly defined. As per our sustainable business agenda, which is known as Horizon now, we have got actually 7 measurable targets which are fixed up to be achieved by 2025. I will talk about the plant side and the internal side first, and then I'll come to the product side. By 2025, globally, we intend to achieve carbon neutral status in scope 1 and 2 by 2025. That is. Then also, that's one is on the that carbon neutrality side. Then on the supply chain partner side, we will ensure that 100% of our supply chain partners are committed to UN Global Compact corporate social responsibility. This is well defined in our organization, and we will abide by this one by 2025. And then also, another thing, there cannot be sustainability unless there is inclusivity in whatever we do. Gender inclusivity and inclusivity beyond the region, religion, etc. This becomes the norm for a business to be sustainable. We have got a target. We also know that in Indian manufacturing scenario, gender sort of inclusivity has always been a bit of a challenge. So we have got a sort of a target that by 2025 across globally, we will have 15% of gender representation in the executive level. Apart from this one, the safety factors, once again, for the people, safety at work is of paramount importance for us. And we will have a total incidence ratio of a maximum of 1. It will be less than 1 on a continuous basis by 2025. This is the fourth one. Apart from this one, on the packaging side, we have a responsibility to ensure that 75% of all the products and services sold will be reusable, renewable, or the recyclable packaging it will have. All the products will have this 75% of our reusable, renewable, or recyclable packaging. The other 2 points is directly onto the product front. The product front, in fact, we need to ensure that 100% of our products will have established product environmental footprint data. For every one of the product, we will have the footprint data very clearly defined, so that our customers are also able to really proudly say that what is the product footprint side, what we are doing for the products that we put in the market. And also one which is of utmost importance to us, which is the backbone of our survival and our longevity. We are the trendsetters in the safest inks that we produce and provide to the market. So we will keep on improving our safe inks in the market so that our customers, the consumers, and the brand owners, they remain sustainable. They can actually have a good night's sleep on a continuous basis. So we will continue to up the benchmark for the consumer safety and environmental safety through our product walk and product that we present to the market. That's what our environmental and sustainable strategy for the next 5 years is.
I have a quick question for both of you, just a quick follow-up if you can respond quickly before I come to Ganesh. Is obviously you've set the benchmark, you've set the standards pretty high. You have a large pool of customers with whom you are in almost day-to-day touch. How much of this is sort of trickling down to a larger landscape and a bigger ecosystem? I mean, you obviously set the standards. You are the the Virat Kohlis and the Mahendra Singh Dhonis of the industry. Now, how can the boys in the Kanga League and the the smaller pick up all these skills and talent requisites and implement it in their own little plants, factories, what have you? So Ram, if you can, and then I'll quickly ask Shailesh to respond.
Yeah, Ramu. In fact, as far as the industry is concerned, or in fact, like our fraternity in the industry is concerned, I must say that in fact it's okay. While I can keep saying that we are the trendsetters, we are doing the we will keep on upping the benchmark and all. I must compliment the players in the industry are also definitely doing well.
Okay,
they are also setting up and sort of having their own progress on this aspect. There is no doubt. But in the meanwhile, I can very proudly say that there are many things like toluene-free inks when we are talking about. We were the ones who actually walked out of toluene-based inks as a first step by choice. In fact, we walked out of it by choice. Whether it was the right kind of business decision for profitability may not be. But today, when I look back and see that it was a very right masterstroke, because we have found much better foothold, and we have, I think we have done a service to ourselves and to the industry and to the public out there by doing that. Similarly, on the February 17th, 16th, we launched our MO-free inks. We have declared already by 1st of May 2022, we will be using only MO-free inputs in our blending center. Why? In fact, whether we cannot continue with the MO base, we can, but I'm sure that it's not a sustainable option. So like that, by doing this one, what we are doing is we are able to relate well with the brand owners, with all the packaging manufacturers, with the consumers, and this keeps us in good stead for the future. That's what we enjoy doing, and I'm sure that this is well recognized even in the industry as well as with our customers and with the brand owners.
Yeah, got that. Yeah, Shailesh, quickly.
Though, as Mr. Rama also said, they have been the trendsetters. So similarly, like we have been doing a lot of research and all to come out with some solutions, but it's not that the industry is not working on it. Yeah, of course, there is a time lag, but everybody comes up with similar kind of solutions. It's only that then we take lead and we work with the brands, with the global converters more closely, and it takes little time in convincing them with our idea, or to work with them as per their strict requirements and their जो उनके नखरे होते हैं to bear all those kinds of things, but we take pride in doing all that and coming out first, to be the first to come out with some solution which they really have been looking for. So That's one thing I would say. And in the same tone, though it's not our real responsibility for EPR, like collecting the MLP and recycling it and all, but we are taking a step there. We are putting up a machine for recycling the MLPs. We are in advanced discussion with a company for a joint venture for setting up a plant for recycling, collection and recycling of MLP at a mass scale, So that's one step we are going further.
So this would be post-consumer waste?
Yeah, post-consumer.
Oh, okay. That's
basically.
good. That's
it's
good.
basically post-consumer.
Okay, got that. Super. Ganesh, you would like to respond to the two of them? I know you are, in a way, sitting on the other side of the fence. So 2 questions for you in relation to what Shailesh and Ram have shared with us is that how much of this is, this is a discussion we've had where you said that about 20-25% factories have those levels of efficiency. And we're talking purely sustainability. They might be very profitable companies, but otherwise, you've done some tracking and the results have not been very promising. So how can we spread this good word and, ensure that the information flow is across the spectrum?
So, I want to answer in 2 stages.
Please.
First stage is linked with the first question when you spoke about sustainability.
Yep.
How is sustainability can be implemented or done? That's where the concept of this social responsibility comes in.
Sure.
If you want to, it's like a social license to operate. So if an organization wants to work in an environment, let's say a physical environment, they need to do some activities so that they can reduce their externalities. To give a small example, I think Dr. Medha spoke about giving dresses to use dress to somebody. I would suggest people to see a documentary in the YouTube or Netflix. It's called Dead White Man's Clothes. Okay, what happens is the people from West are so good, so they ship all their used clothes to Ghana. And if you see that particular video, it says the entire Ghana is now, the seashore is polluted, right? So the impact is like we do so many activities inside and we think we are clean, but the problem is seeing the externalities. What is the impact is going to create outside of our preview or external? That's where the things comes in. So that's where the concept like greenwashing comes in. Yeah, my house is clean, but what happens outside my house? Okay, so we speak about a lot of targets and opportunities, but that problem is like about the value chain. The value chain means our suppliers and somebody spoke about the end users. Okay, so where is my externality comes in? Coming to the question, yes, recently a lot of regulations are made up. For example, there is a European regulation on Supply Chain Act, which made mandatory that anybody who supplies to Europe organizations, there is a mandatory Supply Chain Act. So they have to implement set of activities, like they have to have a human rights aspects. I'm saying not only about green side, more about human rights aspect to be done. There should be a trade union formation has to be done. There should be a carbon tax they're introducing now in Europe.
Yep.
If they're saying that if you're exporting to Europe, there has to be you have to measure your carbon footprint. And if you're not able to give a carbon footprint, there'll be a carbon tax, maybe 100 euros per ton of carbon emission. Like similarly, India has a EPR. So there are so many regulations are coming in. So if we are just doing the regulations and say we are sustainable, that's not the perspective. It is more than doing what is our what asks for the regulation side or what is customers asking.
Sure.
To add to this point, I just want to say some personal load on it because that's where the real crux to answer comes in. Do I do this for somebody or I do this for myself? I think personally people ask me why I'm sustainability, why I moved from something to something. It's because of a personal reason. If you see, I'm from a town called Nagapattinam. It's a small seaside town in south side of Tamil Nadu, if somebody knows where it is. In 2004, my life changed when the tsunami hit our town. Okay, it's no more now. We lost a lot of families and friends. And that's how it changed. I had to understand what is the reason behind it. And it's become climate change. And that's what forced me to think about sustainability is more important because I think we don't need another such disasters to again think about climate change sustainability. So I think one is enough. So let's forget about what regulation says, forget about what customer says. I believe it's a responsibility of each individual organization, each individual. If they are caring about their future generations, they have to start doing sustainability.
Sure, sure.
Yeah,
thank you, Ganesh. Dr. Medha, to you, please. Number one is if you have any response to whatever the 3 gentlemen have said, and then we'll come a little bit to your own work because That's one of the ideas is to focus on what you're doing. Yeah, please.
Yes, I do have a lot of things in my mind.
Sure, please.
They were saying, see, because I work at the very other spectrum of the all these businesses, because when whatever they are producing becomes a waste, that's where
you come
my company comes. I come in. And and we have to we are doing we are converting waste into fuel, we are making roads. As a company as well, we are trying, we do use again, cooling water, have a water. We are also trying to make it as a zero water. So we are trying to get from, even though we are a recycler company, at zero waste, we are still trying to reduce our carbon footprints and our, other resources as well. So that is a way we are doing it. We are also trying, like Ram was saying about the gender equality.
Yeah.
We are trying to get more women to come into, recycling as operators, as drivers, as collectors. As you can see, there are many women who are involved in a waste picking, but we would like them to have it as a skilled operator as well, at a one way. But what everybody is saying about what their company is doing, and what I liked about what Ganesh was saying, that it's we all have to think about my responsibility. Like like we say, my waste is my responsibility. I've been working in this almost now a decade. Unfortunately, what I have seen is all the industries, all the brand owners are doing something, in a big way, in their big way. But unfortunately, there hasn't been anything which has been more collective. And that is what is required in India. That, we are generating more than 25,000 metric tons of plastic waste every day.
Yep.
Out of that, 10,000 metric tons is not picked up or is lost.
Correct.
So I would like to see, even with the plastic industry, I would like, instead of saying that I am from this association, that association, this company, like everybody to come in and say, okay, this is our responsibility collectively. I know, because everybody's got their EPR targets, everybody's got their companies things, but I have not seen, unfortunately, in last many years, a one voice, saying
True.
that this is how we want to do it. And, that's where the government comes in. Like, there are so many regulations coming in and companies have to fulfill that. And, now this new EPR thing is coming in. See, when last time the EPR things were coming in, all brands were excited. And then when it went, that revisions and that, we saw last 2 years, nobody wanted to speak to us about, how they will help us. So whenever companies are doing in their own, their own sphere, their own, their company way, I would like, each company to say, okay, this is what I'm going to help the recyclers. This is what I'm going to help the collection. I know it's not their job. And as a EPR, they will have to do it. But if the companies also say in their own, vision, mission, that how that converts into recycling, I would be the most happy. Because even like Ganesh, I also came into this industry as an accident. I never thought I will start working with the waste plastic. Some incident changed my life too. So I'm an accidental environmentalist. But this is what I would like to see. I would like to see brand owners, government, and in all this, I think we all are forgetting the users, end users. Nobody is thinking about them. Nobody is thinking about their responsibility, because, they are the ones who will buy, who will litter, and they are means who? It's us. It's not the users are nobody other than you. But nobody is trying to, make an effort to educate them, to make sure that they understand why it is, needs to be done. Because a lot of time it comes as plastic ban karo, ye karo, don't use this, don't do that. There are no alternatives. Unfortunately, littering happens because, there is no effective collection happening. So, that's why you will see a lot of time the littering happen. So we all have to, as a sit down and collectively think, how can we do it? Like, when we are talking about the sustainability of the society, social sustainability, I think that's where it comes in. Sure. And if we can make these people understand why they need to do it, I think we will see more synergy, we will see more change happening and faster.
Sure. Dr. Medha, if we can over here sort of turn the spotlight on you. You mentioned an accident where you came across or heard about the deer who swallowed the plastic and how in a way that was a life transforming thing. Of course, supplemented with huge amounts of work that you poured into the whole thing in terms of studying hydrocarbon structure, etc. So A, if you can share with us what that moment was, and B, how your journey began and what exactly you do, because the idea is also hopefully to have many more Dr. Medhas, in at least 5,000 cities of India. Yeah.
So basically in 2009, me and my co-founder had gone to one of the wildlife sanctuaries, and we heard a deer has been killed. So after a couple of days, we found out in a post-mortem, they found a plastic waste inside. And a deer had, because the plastic doesn't get digested, it stays there. And so when we came back, it was always been, all of us say this, why doesn't somebody do something about it? How can people be so careless? There needs to be somebody who stops that. And I think after a while, we realized that, we are exactly like everyone, and we need to be that somebody. Now, no background in plastic, nothing. So we tried to learn about plastic. So for 6 months, just went in understanding what is plastic, what is it made of, how long it takes for it to be, naturally disintegrate. And that's what we realized, that it takes minimum 200 to 1,000 years. And nobody has seen it happen naturally, because it was discovered only 125, 30 years ago. And that's when we started working. Actually, our aha moment came when we saw a piece of ice melt. And it was like, okay, water turns to ice, ice turns to water. Can we do exactly the same thing with the, plastic? From hydrocarbons to plastic, plastic to hydrocarbon. And everything started in the kitchen, in a pressure cooker. And, it took us almost 6-7 months to get something black, liquid floating on the water. When we got it tested, when we got it tested, we realized they are hydrocarbons. So we decided to build a machine. Now we had no idea how to build a machine. So we literally built a bigger pressure cooker. That was our first machine. And where we successfully converted waste plastic into usable fuel. After a while, somebody came and said, you are letting the gas out, which is more harmful. So we scrapped it. And we said, okay, it was a nice way, nice hobby to do it. We did not succeed. But I think, when you start working on something, you want to do something about it. So it took us almost 1.5 years when we realized what this gas was. And it was like a energy source. So we built a second machine where we started using the same gas as an energy source. Now, when you are doing something you want to talk about, that's when we found out there are no awareness about plastic waste, because I believe plastic is a brilliant product. Let's not forget it. Let's not be it's not the devil. It had changed our lives for the better. The retail revolution has come because of it. But we forget that whatever we use turns to waste. And that's what happens with the plastic. So we started creating awareness, and people said, it's nice to come and tell us, but, even if we segregate, who is going to come and collect it as a separate? Because even though we, separate it in a dry and wet, the people come to collect and they put it in a one container. So what's the use of segregation at source? And that's how our collection started. First I used to go around, in Pune, collecting in my car. And now today I'm happy to share that we are collecting from more than 45,000 households, and we are connected with more than 2 lakh people. We have also made sure that the habit change, is again, I would like to use the sustainable. And at the same time, people just don't give a plastic to us and forget about it. We want them to have responsibility to see what happens to their plastic. So we make sure that people come and visit the plant. Recently, we gave Pune Corporation 50,000 kilos of plastic waste to be used in the roads. So people see, from their waste, something good happens. And when that happens, I think, people want to do something about their waste. Now, we get plastic waste from all across India sent to us by courier, by railways, and should not be the case. Like you said, there needs to be, this can happen anywhere. It can be scaled up, and you don't need to have too much of a manpower, too much of this thing. Only thing is the people who generate that waste needs to change their habit. But for that, we need to create awareness. And for that, we need to tell them why they need to do it. And that's where there is, I think, the gap is. And we are trying to fill that gap.
Sure.
And, simply that's the
Dr.
way
Medha, what kind of plastic is this? Is this single use or, is it convenience plastic or is it functional? Single use or multi-layer? What type? Or it's all kinds?
Everything, all kinds.
And how do you train people in terms of segregation of plastic waste?
We just give them the idea about what is plastic waste, and we just open their eyes. So we get people saying, "Is this plastic waste?" And we give actually. We have started doing is, if somebody comes with something new, plastic item which nobody has thought of, gets a prize. They get a certificate of being a plastic warrior. And I think it gives people and kids
some incentive
involved.
Yeah,
some incentive.
Yeah, you mentioned scaling up. Just a quick question to you before I go to the next round. Is you how? I mean, if I am sort of the Minister of Environment, and I asked you, I want to scale this up, and wherever there's a postal code, I want to have this system. What can be done if there'll be like step 1, step 2, step 3? If you have something in your head, top of your head.
See, even though I'm an innovator of technology and a process, I also believe that only innovation or technology will not work. Correct. And it will not be a solution for any kind of a waste management. For that, involvement of people, involvement of the government, involvement of the companies, they all have to be together. So my first thing would be, creating awareness. I will definitely do not go and put a machine. I would start with the awareness. I would start with the, creating the social, groups in the areas, then have an effective collection system, because it doesn't need to be collected every day.
True.
So depending on the area, whether 2 days, 3 days, 7 days, monthly, you can decide. And the technology comes at the end of it. It should not be the front of it. Unfortunately, a lot of time we think we have a technology and it's going to solve our problems. It doesn't. I think that's what I believe, and that's what I've seen. The technology is the end of it. So it starts from, making everybody responsible for their waste, and then effective collection, and then the recycling or any kind of technology.
Sure. Got that. Very well said. I mean, there's a speech by Gandhiji in 1940 in Wardha where he almost says the same thing, but he's, of course, at that time, plastic had just been discovered in 1933. So he wasn't talking about plastic, but he was talking about empowering at local units. I think something like that we need to think of, coupled with high thinking, simple living, and of course, responsibility. Yep, superb. Speaking of technology, Ram, I'm just going to sort of jump straight into this. I know you've worked, collaborated, partnered with some of the biggest daddies in flexible packaging, and I visited some of those factories in India and UAE, etc. And 2 or 3 things, and I'm coming to this because of the nitty-gritty and the nuts and bolts of stuff, like especially for the wide web flexo and for the gravure applications, there are some systems that have now been integrated into all these machines, and they talk of energy savings and speeds, etc., plus dependency on solvents, and of course all kinds of new kinds of IoT that use data intelligence too. My question to you is, number one is how prevalent are these technologies now across, because you're obviously have privy to what is transpiring there? And more importantly, what would be, if I was to put you on the spot, what would be the next, 2 or 3 sustainable practices? This they're all doing, they're doing it damn well. We all know that. But what would be 2 or 3 really good, sustainable best practices that they can, integrate into their plan to take it to the next level in terms of anticipation, 2030, 2050, or some of the things Dr. Medha was saying? Yes.
Yeah. I would once again actually emphasize on what Dr. Medha said right now, that technology, while it can really give solutions, technology will be only as effective as how we decide to use it.
Sure.
It comes at the end. That's right. First of all, we need to be committed to this technology in the right way. Then only we can really sort of use it to the right cost and the right results.
Sure.
I will go back to what you mentioned, Ramu, about print inspection systems and all these things which are in the flexo, gravure, etc. I remember in 2001 or 2002, when we put up the print vision system, my inspection system in the machine, I found that my wastage never really went down. It was just not going down at all. And then when we went into complete study, what we realized is this system was detecting the problem well before the human eyes detected it.
Okay.
So when it detects the problem, it will start giving you signals on the machine that, look, there is a problem. And the printing operator will look at the print and he'll say that, look, there is no problem in the print here. And the machine is only beeping continuously and they will switch it off. So, the fact is basically then we had to really go and train the people. Look, sure, this is able to detect the problem well before you detected it. Hence, it's time that you really grew up to the extent of believing this machine, believing the technology, and then working out to find out that what would be going wrong and attending to it well before the problem becomes major and it is visible to the naked eye.
Sure.
By doing this, what we are doing, in fact, if you really look at, this is how we, sort of reduce carbon footprint. This is how we reduce wastage. Yeah. This is how we reduce material recall. And all these things are obviously the sustainability moves. Yeah. And today, after about maybe close to 15, 18 years or 20 years, today the print vision systems are used across in many converting industries and many of the packaging manufacturers in a very effective manner. People have learned, people have really picked it up. And the key is basically to trust in the technology and catch hold of it and to work on it on a continuous basis and train the people. Sure. Train the people too. If you don't train the people, we will obviously suffer. Yep. Now, looking at that one similarly, the next thing is basically, I think in all these technologies which are to be implemented, very key aspect is to unlearn. If you're not ready to unlearn, unfortunately, we will not be able to implement technologies. Now, the next generation technologies or whatever the next ones, what we need to implement, if we talk about it, there are several of them. LED curing systems. How many of us in India are using LED curing systems? I would invite you guys to visit LinkedIn and check up one of the comments, what one of the converters, Mr. Anuj Bhargava of Spirited Labels, he has put up a comment that he measured the power consumption in his machine after he went from conventional UV curing system to LED curing system. The reading went down from 82 amps to 26 amps. It's a 60% plus reduction in power. But how many of us put it? Why? One of the reasons what I invariably find is basically fear. People fear that, look, the moment I go to LED inks, then I will get stuck with only maybe 1 or 2 ink suppliers. Yep. Everybody will not have a solution. Then I will be under the monopolistic pressure. Yep. But many other companies, be it in China, be it in Middle East, for that matter, where I worked earlier, Kimoha had a LED curing system for ages. Yep. That been churning the machine out 24 hours a day and churning out really good material out. In fact, job changeover to job changeover, there is no downtime. The ink returns are very minimal. The power consumption is lower. Yeah. The startup is quicker, efficient, all these aspects. Similarly, the next one, extended color gamut. The next generation, what we are really talking about. Globally, there are many companies which have gone for it. In our own session, day before yesterday, we heard Mr. Rohit Badlani telling about how ECG has helped him to really bring down the job changeover time to as low as 20 seconds. Yep. So that's what basically the sustainability is. By doing this one, obviously, you are actually improving your productivity. You are putting less material, less metal into your factory, the less of rubber, the less of everything, less of resources, whereas higher output. So these are the new generation, like technologies what people need to adopt, be it ECG, be it LED curing, be it Internet of Things, be it digitalization in the shop floor. Look, we are all still used to the old habit, many of us are, of logbook writing.
Yeah.
You get on to, doing every measurement through the computers. Like we are on to now digitalization phase 3 in our shop floor.
Yeah.
Whereby we are eliminating all the written down documentation on the shop floor. By this one, what we are achieving, the paper consumption goes down obviously. Apart from this one, the data recall, it is on the fingertips. You are able to recall the data, in a split second, you can recall the data.
Sure.
The measurement of the batches has become more precise. If I need to do a batch of 42.3 kilos, I can make it 42.3 kilos.
Yep.
While computer, a biometric system or a volumetric system, they measure basically the ingredients needed. They do a precise dosing. You get the right kind of output. Hence, your like the work in progress reduces, semi-finished batches reduces. Your finished goods, which is lying in the stocks, which will get eventually written off after maybe about 2 years, that reduces. These are the sustainability things what we need to do. Every industry need to really think in this way about how we can use technology, how we can use the power of machinery, power of internet, and power of computer in our day-to-day work. Sure. And actually, I can tell you, with the young entrepreneurs, we have seen several in the last 3 days. Rohit Badlani himself, and people like Anup Venugopal, people like our Sahil Rao, all these people, the youngsters who are actually in the program, it's actually energizing to see these guys.
Sure.
When I see these guys and, when they see their commitment and sort of energy levels, and I'm very sure that the sustainability, efficiency, and we becoming a real world-class player of power, I think it's just there. We will reach there very, very soon. It's pretty exciting. And I'm only keep thinking that in fact, I should have been born 30 years later. At times I think.
So think economically, print ecologically. Yeah. Ganesh, this is something that you've been working on, and also print factories maintaining wastage below 0.25. This again take 0.25%. But the fact that again, one of the sort of things you mentioned that very few have been able to achieve this. I'm going to talk to you about your auditing process and the fact that you have the sustainability report card, which looks at wastage, which looks at energy consumption, which looks at emissions. Instead of sort of spreading doom and gloom, I'm going to request you to put the spotlight on 2 companies. I won't take their names because I know they are prestigious and they are your clients, but both based in Chennai, one a huge paperboard manufacturer and other a book exporter. And according to you, they've delivered on most of the 55 fairly stringent parameters that you have. So if you can just share a little bit about how this wastage component, etc. So the idea is, again, hopefully what you share here is something that more and more companies across India can A, realize they can replicate, and B, do quickly instead of going through the entire, knowledge cycle. Yeah, please.
Thank you. And I want to start with Ramakrishna, sir. I think he covered a lot of things. And by the way, sir, your energy is much higher than at least
ours.
Thank you so much for the inputs. To start with both these companies, what you mentioned,
Sure.
They had a clear program with respect to standardization. Because when you speak about waste, when you speak about, yes, as Ramakrishna sir said, you can have technology, you can train people. But if as an organization, we are not able to standardize, starting from, let's say, give a small example, we are in InkWeek. I buy a sustainable, pretty good ink, but I don't use a right found solution, okay? Then emulsification will not come in.
Yeah.
Or I use some kind of normal wash or something which is not going to affect my wastage more. So it's all about standardizing the right paper, the right materials, with the right technology and the right training. That's where they focused on. Both these customers, they're able to reduce their waste. They become sustainable by being very clear from the perspective that they need to have the right standardization. It includes press standardization, it includes the material standardization, it includes even the training of some people with respect to, because printer A, printer B, again, there may be variation with respect to how they operate the machine, how they use the material. So standardization with respect to everything, people, material, as well as on the technology side also. So that really helped small things like SIP3. I think I call these programs as money back programs. Whatever you do in sustainability, they are money back programs. I think Ramakrishna said, spoke about LED. Yeah, you have to invest some money, but you'll get the money very soon. Okay, so these are pretty money back programs.
Yeah.
So it's all about understanding that these perspectives of standardizing and be very clear where you want to go, set up the goals. Let's say, for example, the book publisher, they said they want to become net zero by 2030, right? It's a pretty ambitious program, but they are now working on various raw materials, their processes, their technologies, so that they start measuring their footprint, they start measuring their waste, they start measuring what is the impact they're creating. Then they are setting up each clear goals with respect to how to achieve it. So again, to the packaging printer, he is pretty clear with respect to, for example, they are one of the water positive, carbon positive, you can call, they are one of the positive company with respect to sustainability again rated. And they strongly depend on technology, the right technology, the right sanitization, and training other people, which I align with what Ramakrishna said.
Right. So when you say standardization, also efficient operation of presses, arresting leakages for zero wastages of energy, chilled air leakages, etc.
Exactly.
Yeah.
As per the manufacturing practices, manufacturer advice, because what happens is, if you don't put the right parts,
right,
you do cost efficiency or something, then we have a problem. So it's about standardization and everything.
Yeah. So we are rapidly running out of time. So Shailesh, I'm going to come to you. Again, our sister magazine, one of our sister magazines in the group is called Campaign, and they did a kind of a sustainability survey for the APAC region. And of course, with some focus on India, and they looked at about 77% of Indian consumers, especially in the millennial group, and the age 30 approximately. And one of the strong messages that emerged was that this generation, or rather that generation, is very keen to invest their time and money in companies that try to do good and are sustainable overall. The question for you is, Cosmo is obviously in touch with customers. If you can share some sustainable practice that where your customer or your customer's customer have used, it could be one of your white CPP films or anything that you've developed, but gone to market with that. But something that would be enticing for Gen Next in a way. Yeah.
Actually, we are working with the global brands, FMCG brands, and we have been trying to come out with the alternative laminate structures just around the sustainability only and reducing the plastic. So that way, if you see, we have worked with them to change the structure in case of noodle packing, detergent soap bars, bathing bars, and then tea liners, tea sachet, coffee bags, and then ketchup, shampoo sachet. These are some of the structures where either polyester has been taken off and the foil has been taken off, and see, the volumes are growing. The share of this, it's not that the entire structure has been changed to this structure, but gradually it is shifting. Like all these big brands you talk of, say Unilever or Nestle, I'm just taking the names. So they all have a target to have their laminate structures all 100% recyclable by 2025. They want to use 25% of all the plastics that they use must have, all the plastics that they use must have 25% PCR content. So those kind of things. So we have been working with them, and see, this concept is not so popular still in India, but it's being driven by the overseas counterparts. And we do developments in India, and then take those developments globally.
Sure.
And that's how we have been working globally with their operations in different countries.
Quick follow-up question. I know that films and bags are very popular items in the Indian market, and with single-use convenience, as we call it, not going away soon. Just quickly, I want to know if there is any development in bioplastics, because that again kept coming up in the last 2 or 3 days.
We have a biodegradable plastic. We are selling a bit of it in India. It's not that popular, but we are exporting it. So there are customers, big brands in food sector, they buy it. And besides biodegradable films, we are now going for home compostable also. Our R&D is working on that, and we are in advanced stage. So we are working on a home compostable film also.
That's good news. Yeah. Ram, quick question for you. Similar sort of line of thought is importance of bio-based raw materials. Again, this is something that came up since you attended all the past 4 days, but that can be deployed for ink constituents. So quick question for you. Number one, any work on this, not just by ZigWork, but any of the ink majors, and more importantly, is it viable? So many factors, cost, runnability, etc.
Yeah, look, as far as the bio-based raw material is concerned, as per my understanding, there are no general definition or the standards which are fixed up for inks.
Sure.
That's what my understanding is. I do not think that there is anything which is very clearly fixed up that so and so is the standard for bio-renewable contents. But at the same time, there is a constant effort to ensure that we use and maximize the renewable contents in our products, which are mainly, like basically the vegetable-based or microbial origin, like that. This kind of efforts are always on. In the industry generally, even if you look at, in fact, yeah, there has been some kind of efforts which definitely various players are also conducting. There is one machine, like one machine which is in the digital spectrum. There is one machine which is put up, which claim that they have got actually a food grade ink, which can be directly in contact, or they can print on a biscuit or a tablet and all that kind of thing, even what people talk about. Yes. And these are basically vegetable-based pigments, but invariably this expense, even compared with the HP Indigo machine, I think the ink cost is about at least maybe 60–70% higher.
Sure.
So hence it becomes economically unviable many times. But at our end, if you really look at MO-free inks, what we introduced, what I mentioned a little bit earlier, will have about close to 65–68% renewable contents in it. Sure. What you're going to put up. Similarly, the barrier coatings. There are many barrier coatings which you are putting up, which has got the renewable content right from 25 to 100% level.
Sure.
And there are NC-based inks, what we are really producing, which have got up to about close to 48%. Up to 48%, it can have a renewable content. So these things, obviously, in fact, when you look at actually conventional inks, what people have been using for ages and years, yes, in fact, like basically, it's not that they're inferior. Definitely, they're not inferior. They would be superior. But as I mentioned earlier, letting go is an issue. Yeah. We need to unlearn. We need to unlearn to relearn actually the effectiveness of these products. Yeah. Once we relearn this one, then there is no stoppage.
Sure.
There are many customers of ours who use this and they happily use it, like water-based inks.
Yep.
The customers who have started using it, they're extremely happy. Customers who have not started using it, they find it very difficult to go for it.
Sure.
So I think it's a question of, okay, like maybe we need to convince more, we need to be more convincing, and customers need to be sort of more experimenting and more willing to learn even. Both sides, in fact, it is there. Like Rohit said the other day, in fact, he's very happy with ECG. And he's inviting everybody to come and see his plant. Why? Correct. Because he has bitten the bullet and he's seen the success.
Sure.
So that's what the thing is. Like we need to be really adventurous in this one.
Yeah.
Options, there are definitely plenty. And we are all geared up and we continuously work with both our customers and brand owners to push through these things and educate them and sort of highlight them about the pluses and maybe the possible gaps which needs to be addressed. All these things we take up on a continuous basis.
Sure, sure. Got that. Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Medha, I'm quickly coming to you. Just before this session started, on 24th March, which was World Packaging Day, and I shared this with you, a very young friend had shared something on WhatsApp, which is basically an ice cream served in a banana leaf cup with a bamboo spoon, etc., and said that, hey, great, why don't, because we have this publication called What Packaging, that why don't you, support this and, think that this is a great way to end plastic waste. So that was the message. And then more recently, meaning 2 years prior to the COVID pandemic, we were traveling through Orissa. And again, this was something with our paperboard partners. We heard of this tribe in Orissa called the Chenchu tribe. And what this group has been doing with them is that, so plastic is rampant over there, especially the single-use polythene bags, etc. So what they've done is that they work with these Adivasi community and they've basically taught them paper bag making skills. Of course, it's one way to propagate their own product, etc. And it just was a fantastic way because you have employment, scalability, etc. And some of the things that you mentioned that you touch upon, you just don't thrash plastic, but you also give them an alternative mode. Obviously, you are on multiple forums. You've been, talking to similar like-minded people, and because we are so disconnected from that world. The question to you is, are there, other plastic warriors across the country, plastic waste warriors, or people like this Chenchu tribe who are doing interesting things which you can share with us? I mean, we rarely, we are grabbing the opportunity of picking on your brains to know if there are any interesting on the ground initiatives from which we are, let me confess, totally disconnected. Yeah.
No, so many things are happening. Like, you are seeing so many, changes happening, innovations happening. Like Ram was saying, alternatives. You have to give choices to people.
Yep.
You have to give them and tell them, look, this is more sustainable. And unfortunately, what is happening in this is, everything comes down to the cost. Because we Indians are more focused on a cost base than the environment base. So, our thing is kitna deti hai. That is the first thing we would know. So, unfortunately, a lot of people are doing, various good things, but because it is not in a big scale, the cost of production becomes high. And maybe that's why, you don't see the, every nook and corner. Now, there are people who are doing upcycling with plastics, making bags, giving a lot of employment to the women. I think the bamboo is becoming an alternative for plastic. Now you are seeing, people with plastic, with bamboo toothbrushes, bamboo bottles, even food-wise, there are biodegradable dishes, and a lot of things happening.
Yes.
Unfortunately, again, how many people are ready to pay extra for that sustainability?
True.
That is the question. And unless and until either the cost goes down, or we make more people who are ready to pay for that, I think I think we are in that progress or change of thinking that if you look at Western world, you will always get more money, or you can charge more money if it is a recycling thing.
Correct.
People will pay for it. Or there is something called as vintage clothes as well. People pay for old clothes, and they'll pay more money for it as well. And I think that thing, it needs to come here. Things are changing, but it's not changing as fast. And I'll tell you, there are so many things happening in various pockets. Again, we need to connect them, and we need to have more impact with a lot of people working it together as a community. And if anybody is interested, we can definitely send them, and connect with such kind of a people. But a lot of things happening, which is very exciting, I think, for the industry.
True. Two quick questions, because we are like hopelessly out of time. But Shailesh, I think this could be for you. Just like PET bottles, can PET films be recycled, especially printed ones with 75+ microns?
I think yes, it can be, but unless and until it should not be laminated with something, some other type of polymer. If it is just polyester film, monolayer sort of, there shouldn't be any problem.
Sure.
It can be recycled in chemical recycling, or it can be used in the roads. It can be, so all microns are welcome at our place.
Okay, there, superb. Dr. Medha, one quick question for you. We are still in the dry waste and wet waste segregation phase. Since somebody mentioned EPR, Sweden where EPR was born, Sweden segregates trash into 6 separate types. So again, the question for you, because you're, you've got your hands, sleeves rolled up, hands muddied, etc. How do we bridge this gap between aspiration and actionable waste? I mean, simple thing for EPR, I think Sweden, someone was mentioning to me prior to this, is still 70%, 69%, 70%. The US is operating at about 27 or 30%. We are still in single digit. So how do we, basically change the game? Yeah. So this aspiration, how can we reduce the gap? Yeah.
See, again, in India, where, people are given those buckets, a lot of places, people in a certain place will use it to store their, food or something. So it's not used, those buckets are used to, for the waste as well. So we really need to think about this as, awareness and education. I don't
Sure.
think anything, because in Western countries, or a lot of time people say, oh, it happens in Sweden, why can't it happen? A lot of time technologies come from there and nobody looks at our waste.
Yeah.
See, our waste is mostly the wet waste, and then everything comes.
True,
While
true.
in Western world, it's a different way. So nobody looks at the composition as well. Nobody looks at even it changes from east to west to city.
Yep.
So we all have to actually do the good research and study, and also think about the mentality. Like we say, one model does not work in each city. Like how we incentivize keeps changing as per the city, as per the mentality. And because we are such a big, vast country with, so many billions of people, we need to have a different kind of decentralized thinking, decentralized waste management, and not think about that, one, and it will fit, all across the country. And I think that we need to understand that is a problem, or maybe that's a boon for us, because, as collectively and as separately, we can work it and make it success. Because I have a lot of hopes with the newer generation. I think they are having a lot of impact on, our generation as well. So I think it's more exciting, and I've seen a lot of change happening in last 4 to 5 years. Especially, I think the pandemic has done the best thing for us, is had made us realize that, the waste and, the other things, and we are making more sensitive towards our environment. And I think that's the best thing that the pandemic has taught us.
Yeah, that we are running out of time. Ganesh, quickly, can paperboard, I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but because of your experience with Heidelberg and of course, with ITC, etc., can paperboard MLP be segregated and reused? There's a question, so I'm asking you.
Yes, but as per the data, if you're not using, I'm just connecting with the question we have. If you're not using, let's say, a printed board, if you're not using the right ink, the right materials, coatings, adhesives, everything, then we can't segregate it. So it's all about, again, go to the point of standardization.
Right.
Yes, we can recycle this thing, but if you're not using the right materials, then we have to throw it. Recycling.
Got it. So MedPet, quickly.
Again, as Dr. Medha mentioned, yes, we can recycle it and use different purposes, right? It can be for cement lanes or the roads, various things. Everything is recyclable, but the point is segregate in the right manner and put in the right bucket.
Sure. All right. So we have completely run out of time. I'm going to ask my favorite question. This is for all 4 of you. At a sort of jovial level, the question is that if you bump into the Union Cabinet Minister for Environment in the elevator, and you have 12 floors with him all by himself, and if there's one input about sustainability, you can make it 2 that you'd like to share with him, that can be implemented by the government of India. If you can share that would be fantastic. We're also creating a kind of a wish list, so whatever inputs you share here, we'll probably add to that. So yeah, so one input about sustainability that you have for the Union Cabinet Minister. So yes, Ram, if we can start with you, and then Dr. Medha, Ganesh, and Shailesh.
Yeah, in fact, if it's only one input, then I would actually put it as institutionalizing and sort of supporting the rat pickers through maybe covering them in a scheme like NREGA.
Yeah,
I would say, because I think that's one of the biggest menaces today for us, is to how to collect them and route them back to the recyclability. That's what the issue is. Industry, everybody will do their bit. I think this is what the key one which government needs to work on.
Yeah. Good one. Really good one. Thank you, Ram. Medha, Dr. Medha. You're on mute. Yeah, sorry.
Ram just, stole my, but, second thing I think I would like is a traceability. There is no traceability of the waste. And if that somehow we can bring in, I think life will become easier for all of us.
Yep. Ganesh?
Create a taxonomy for each sector, like how much they can pollute, and incentivize the best guys and penalize the guys who pollutes.
Okay.
Like a carbon tax.
Right. EPR has that, by the way, cognizable offense, and it's
But not
punishable. You go to jail non-bailable. So
Yeah, but not diluting
This was
the
my
thing.
second point. This was my second point.
Yeah, no. So my fear is sudden, huge, humongous amounts of harassment for no rhyme or reason. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, got it. But Ganesh, thank you. Yeah, Shailesh.
Yeah, I'll just add to Ram's point. Maybe the government can come out with some sort of legislation to mandatorily use PCR in whatever plastic we use. So it can start with 2, 3, 4% and gradually increasing to say 20% or 25% over next 5, 6 years. At least we should start taking step in that direction through legal way.
Yep. Thank you very much. I can see Sriram's hovering over us. So yeah, we are done. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you all 4 of you. Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure, Ramu. Thank you, everyone. There are many more questions though, but we hope we will share it with our panelists and they can possibly, share their answers with us at a later point. Thank you. I got to thank Manas Sarkar for his opening speech. I thank Dr. Arul Anand for his keynote address. All our panelists, thank you for all the knowledge sharing. Thank you, delegates, for being part of the week-long event. We hope there was a lot to learn over the 5 days and also more questions to explore. These 5 days were put together by Noel Dicuna, the managing editor of PrintWeek and What Packaging magazine, and Sudhanva Jategaunkar. Thank you, gentlemen. I thank Shaman Alexander, our young digital editor, and our editor from Kerala, Altrin Vijay, for posting live updates on our social media handles. I thank Naveen Grover and Nasir Mullah and the 5th floor IT gang for all the tech support. And once again, I thank our partners, Zigwork and Uber India, for their support. Thank you. We have an interesting lineup of webinars in April. Plus, Noel Dicuna and his edit team are partnering with MMS for their digital roundtable in Alibag on 9th and 10th April. Noel will also be announcing the Print Week Awards 2022 in Alibag on those days. Please register and join us for more knowledge sharing. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.